Being a Lion is an outstanding feeling. It's hard to put into words, but I have to say the proudest moments of my life have revolved about the Great Britain Lions, and particularly for me on tour. When you put that jumper on, and well, I'm a small bloke, but you feel 10 feet tall, and so the pride and the heritage that comes with that jumper is the history of the game. So you wear that with respect, and you treat it with the reverence it deserves as well.
To be a GB Lion is the absolute pinnacle of any rugby league player's career, and probably the proudest moment of mine.
For me, there's no greater accolade than playing for Great Britain ever. I grew up watching Ellery Hanley, Martin Offiah, Jonathan Davis scoring that try in the corner, that amazing try that he scored. There's all just loads of memories that you have. For me, it's the pinnacle, it's the greatest. I think it's, just in my opinion, it's far greater and far better than playing for England. I think when you play for Great Britain, it represents more. It represents us, for me, as a nation.
To go there and play against Australia for Great Britain was just, it's probably the pinnacle of my career, really. So in 2006, the test match against Australia at the Sydney Football Stadium, the build-up to that game was a lot of attention on us. Phil Gould had said that we wouldn't win a game. Leon Price had controversially compared Bondi to Blackpool, which at the time didn't go down well. And for people who don't know, the Rugby League's on the back 5 pages of the paper out there. So I think the Sydney Morning Herald was Leon Price, full size, a picture of Blackpool with a donkey that looked half dead, flies around it, and then a picture of Bondi in its glory.
Obviously, when you play with a lot of Australian players in Super League, they always talk about how good Australia is, how the beach is, how the sun, and we got there and there were nobody there on this beach, and there were flies everywhere, and I just remember thinking, right, I'll try and get a little bit of one back here in the media, and I got asked a question and I just thought, well, I said, people talk about Bondi, and to be honest with you, Blackpool's far better. I'd rather be in Blackpool than Bondi.
I didn't see the big deal. We went for a walk on Bondi Beach, a few days, prior to the test, and there must have been 30 or 40 flies on my rucksack, so I'd rather have been in Blackpool as well. But they just made a meal of it, didn't they, really? They blew it out of all proportions, just a way of, I thought, putting pressure on Liam before the game. And then you speak about Phil Gould and obviously his comments are just, like I said earlier, they didn't really respect us at the time. So, it all just adds us fuel. All the things that were in the paper about Rob Burrow being this big 5'3" and weighing, 12 stone, with a picture at the side of him of Willie Mason, who, probably 6'6" and 18.5 stone, and basically said, this is what the Pommies are bringing, this is what we've got. So, we just use all that negative energy that they put out there in the press, and we just use that as fuel and had the belief within our camp.
It was like a siege mentality for us, because we went into that game off the back of Phil Gould's comments and off the back of all this criticism and scrutiny we got off the back of Leon Price innocently sticking up for where he's from. It probably galvanised us quite a bit, and we went into that game with the backs against the wall mentality, and I think when you're on tour, that's quite powerful.
Every day was something that was, they won't win a game, they look like they're a bunch of part-time workers, they look like they're amateurs. I think that was every day, that was a daily occurrence, and I think that's where the frustration built from.
A few people have gobbed off that we haven't got a chance, you've got no chance, you're going to get flogged, this, that and the other. But the team that we had, I'm thinking, mate, they've not seen the team, what's going on in British Super League if they're being that arrogant. When you look at the names involved, with a couple of people missing that could have been added to it, was an outstanding. I think it would beat most international teams now. I genuinely do. I think it was that good. Terry Newton and Adrian Morley and Stuart Fielding and Jamie Picker and Gareth Ellis and a young Sean O'Loughlin, and you got people on the bench like James Roby, for goodness sake. Being the underdogs is standard practice. That's what we used to as being English, being from Great Britain. And that suited us down to the ground going into that game in Australia. In the tunnel pre-game, obviously the atmosphere is electric. we know what we're going up against. When the national anthem was sung, it's just a really, really proud moment for every player on the pitch and every member of staff that are involved in a Great Britain tour like that. We spoke before about what it means, about it being the biggest test, playing Australia in Australia.
My focus before the game was cut out the anthem, cut out the tunnel, cut out everything pre-match, cut out the noise, cut out the fans, cut out the stadium. He just focused, he's super focused on the job in front. And I remember just running down that tunnel and running onto the field and thinking, let's go, this is it. Massive hype before the game. You're with some of the best players in the world alongside you, playing against the best players in the world. It's the pinnacle of your career, it's time to rumble, let's go.
I came off the subs bench in that game, and it was difficult really to watch the opening exchanges. Obviously a lot happened in the game. I remember, you know, we were playing really well.
There was a lot of pushing and shoving early in the game, and we were taking the game to him, and Willie Mason just hit Stuart. So basically stood up, Stuart thought about it, and by the time Stuart thought about it, Mason, and then JP runs in, and so it's all on, there's a scuffle, and from then on in it was a proper test match. It was a proper test match from second one, but the guys just didn't go away.
I played with Stuart Bradford, and he'd always, you know, I think he'd always waited, Stu, if somebody throws one at him, he'll throw one back, no drama, and you know, he's a big handy lad. But he kind of cocked it ready to hit Willie Mason, and Willie just banged him. I looked at Willie Mason because I was right next to it, and I'm thinking, should I, shouldn't I? And then by the time I thought that in my head, and I thought he's a little bit big, Peacock comes in and absolutely flattens him. You know, them two go hammer and tong, but JP absolutely flattened him and end up. So I had a good view of it, which sat there with my popcorn watching.
We knew we had Australia rattled at that point. You know, we knew that they'd gone off task, and that was a game changer for me. Not only that, I think Sean Long got hit late, and their discipline was going, and we were just playing on the front foot. And yeah, but on the bench, I was watching some of these bits happen, and I happened to come onto the field as all the aggro started, which is not probably my strong suit.
Well, I'd played test match football, and you get away with a bit more than you normally get away with, but the game had been cleaned up considerably. So Mason's cheap shot on Longy was a shocker. He'd have got 10 games in the stand normally, but it was. I don't even think we got a penalty. Oh, we probably got a penalty, but mate, he didn't miss Longy. He hit him off the ball with his elbow, and I'm in the stand, and I think I'm sat next to John Sharp, and says, I thought they cleaned that away from the game 10 years ago.
You're always going to target the halfback of any team, especially somebody as influential as Sean Long was, and he went on to have an unbelievable game in that game. But it's just, it's standard practice, but you know how long it is. There's not many halfbacks as tough as Sean Long.
Really, I should have reacted to that, really. I should have done something about that. Because it's, you know, 6'5" guy on a halfback is, but nobody else saw it really. But Longy did well. Longy were knocked out, and to come back and put in a man of match performance after that was massive. Everybody that day stood up and were counted. But without Longy, I don't think we'll win the game.
I would have loved to watch it as a fan, and you know the incidents, like I said, with Willie Mason and Stuart Field and Sean Long, Lee Gilmore's try.
We keep going, and then Gilly came off the bench and broke the bank with a skimming try like Gilly can do, and goes under the sticks.
Any one single moment in my whole career, that is by far the highlight. And especially when you think about the context of the game, that was a try that put us in the lead. I just got the ball, and I was just kind of looking and sniffing to see if I could see a little chink in the Aussie line, which you don't get too often. And I just saw a little gap between, I think it was Sivana Siva and Luke O'Donnell. And I just came off my left foot, and it just opened up. Just one of those things where I kind of went through, and I thought, oh, wow, I'm through here.
Because we've been getting this grief all week in the press. When Gilly scores, he goes under sticks, puts the ball down, and he goes up, and he's about to put his two fingers up, and then thinks the better of it because he realises what is going on, because he's going to give the crowd, the Aussies, the two fingers up. But if you watch him, he goes up like that, and then keeps them down and pumps his fist. But there's a photo of him like that, under sticks, scoring try. So that's what I remember of it. In the story after, I think that's brilliant, how we were thinking about giving him the bird, and then I thought better of it. Gaz
Rayner finishes the game off a charge down off Longy. I think he was trying to kick the ball into the corner, and Longy fielded it, went 30 metres down the field, and I'm outside, I look really, really calm. But inside, I'm going, go get over that line and make sure you finish this game. And so a few things went our way, but we were deserved winners that night, and yeah, a lot of pundits had to eat their words.
To beat Australia and to beat them in Sydney, and to beat them when they had such a good team, it was incredible.
It's history. We knew history had been made. I know you don't go down to Australia or England or Great Britain and win very often. It's very, 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 very difficult to do. So I remember just going in front of all the Great Britain fans that were there with the Great Britain flags out, and we were just, enjoying it, enjoying the moment, and realising that we just created a little bit of history.
When the hooter went, it was just relief, really. Obviously, over the moon with the victory, we really had to get a win that weekend in order for us to stay in contention for an hopeful route to the final, which unfortunately didn't transpire. But as much as you're excited afterwards, sometimes it's just relief. We got the job done, and then onto the next stage.
So you have to celebrate wins, and I learned this early on in my Bradford career, sometimes too intense. You got to know when to celebrate. We hadn't done it for 20 odd years, 27 years was it? We hadn't won in Syria, something like that. Some crazy number was telling me for years we hadn't beaten Australia in Australia for a while, and we'd done it. We had a tough challenge. We had the toughest challenge in world sport. I described it as such, and so at times we let the purse strings off, because you've got to enjoy yourself. You're in another land, you're in another country, and you've got to experience that. Most people just sit on the sidelines, stay in their room. That's not touring. You've got to explore, meet people, make friends with people. There's an old expression, what goes on tour stays on tour, and I'm not going to break that rule.
Look, beating Australia in Australia is a huge achievement. To do that playing for Great Britain, the historical brand of the game was incredible. And we did celebrate.
No, we had a good drink, we had a good time, we had a good few beers, came home. Now, back then drinking culture was still part of the game in 2006. Nowadays it'd probably be different. It's a completely different professionalism. It wasn't like I went on a 3-day bender. We had one day drink.
The senior management group, I think they call them now, people like Adrian Morley, Keith, JP. We have to fly out to New Zealand the day after. This is the nature of the challenge. So you've got to get on a plane. You don't want them to be shabby. So basically we cut the purse strings and said, you can go out into Sydney for a night out. We've got to be on a plane tomorrow. Make sure you rock up for rehab at 9 o'clock the next morning in the Manly Pacific pool. Boy, did I have a sleepless night that night, because you've got to trust your players, and I trusted them implicitly, and everyone made the pool. I'm not too sure about what shape or size they were in that pool session, but they all made it, and then we got off to New Zealand.
But to walk out of the Sydney Football Stadium is just, you can't really explain it. When the game means that much to you, and you've got that much involvement in the history of it, and these iconic moments through the history, when you get the chance to do that, it's mind-blowing.
To be able to look back and say you played against the best players in the world, you've played alongside the best players in the world. At one point you were one of the best players in your position in the country. Just to represent your country where you were born is massive, and something that I really, really, really treasure now. Probably more so than when I was playing. At the time that you're playing, for me it was like a tick list, right? I want to play for your club, I want to play for your country, I want to play for Great Britain, and you're just going along ticking them off at the time, so you don't really feel it and appreciate it as much as I do now.
There is no better accolade than playing for Great Britain. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. It's the highest level of rugby league and possibly competing. You're playing against the best players in the world with all the best players in your competition and from your country, and that is the best of the best.
When you look at the roster that we had, Gareth Ellis went back to Australia later to play for Western. He was their best player for 3 years. We're subsequently seeing how good our players are in the NRL, so I had no fears then at all. Jamie Peacock was the best forward on the planet. Adrian Morley was the best player for the Roosters for 4 or 5 years, and I'm thinking, Terry Newton, for goodness sake, one of the best hookers we ever produced, God rest his soul. Gareth Hock had one of his best games. It was just sensational. Everything you want Gareth Hock to be: offloading, hitting the line, smashing into people, belting people when they came his way. Blind man's thumb comes to mind. We had a definite chance, but were we enthused about what we could achieve? I suppose we had to carry the baggage. All that baggage of, well, you can't beat the Australians and all that. But the belief in the team was huge. We don't have many franchise brands in rugby league, and I think the Lions is one of them. That iconic blue and red V is worth fighting for.